Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. Today, with my girlfriend and co-host Leah Diana, we will be winding back the reels to 1980. Against the backdrop of spine-chilling stories of drowned mariners and a 100-year-old shipwreck lying at the bottom of the sea, the peaceful community of the coastal town of Antonio Bay, California, is making preparations to celebrate its centennial. However, as strange supernatural occurrences blemish the festivities, an impenetrable, opaque mist starts to shroud the seaside village, leading to unaccountable disappearances and the spilling of warm, bright red blood. One long century ago, a hideous crime was committed by the town's elders. Now, the restless dead have returned for revenge, demanding justice, leaving the question, is there something lurking in the fog? Let's get into it.
John Carpenter's The Fog.
This is KB, Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100 years old today, and keep a watch out for that fog bank heading in from the east.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unknown came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Oh, Jesus.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unnatural came out of the fog. Now it has returned. 100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something evil came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Who's there?
The fog.
Antonio Bay has a curse on it. We're all cursed.
There's no water getting here, but something awful cold, Dana.
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Where's the fog now?
Well, it should be right outside my door now.
Oh, there's something different about this fog. Dan, stay away from the door! Someone listen to me!
Get inside and lock your doors. Close your windows. There's something in the fog. Stay away from the fog. From the creator of Halloween, the ultimate experience in terror and suspense. John Carpenter's The Fog, starring Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, John Houseman, Janet Leigh as Kathy Williams, and Hal Holbrook as Father Malone. The Fog. What you can't see won't hurt you. It will kill you. Between midnight and 1, it will find you.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city now!
The nightmare of insane murder.
From the depths of hell.
Only at the Grindhouse.
It was only a matter of time, Leah, until we reached John Carpenter.
Yeah, he's gonna have a lot of movies on this list. I see a whole series right there in the H's.
Well, basically, his entire filmography takes place in our wheelhouse, minus 1 or 2 movies.
What's the one?
Well, I know he did The Ward in early 2000s.
Oh, that is Excuse me,
It's-
I might need a sip of this.
It's sadly one of his more forgettable movies. I always hold out hope that he'll come back and direct something else.
He's not dead yet, so hope is there. He has done music with his sons.
Yes, and he's talked about doing new films, but I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Somebody should just being John Malkovich, that asshole.
What do
It's
you
just a movie about a chain-smoking douchebag. That's all it is.
How do you how familiar are you with John Carpenter?
Halloween. And you made me watch The Thing. That's it.
That's the extent.
His music is very, like, the music he has in his films is very synth, very basic, but I know why people love it. His stories are, for the time, gritty. For now, I mean, Halloween is amazing. It's a fucking classic. It's probably more well known than the last movie we reviewed now because it's just people like horror, so.
Would you call yourself a fan of John Carpenter?
I want to say getting there because this is only the third movie of his that I've watched. I don't think I can say I am a fan unless I watch. Wait, what do you mean 4? Why are you flashing 4?
You've also watched In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, that's right. Can we cover that on the
Yes, we
podcast?
can.
We can. That movie was bomb. That was his?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that movie's better. But I'm gonna answer you and say no.
You're not a fan of John Carpenter.
I'm not as much of a fan as I am of Peter Jackson.
So you came into this movie without
Blind.
knowing anything.
Didn't know shit.
What? I mean, obviously you knew the title.
The Fog.
What did you expect?
What I thought it was gonna be was kind of like what Halloween is. Like, you have the shadow. Like, that's what Michael is supposed to be. He's supposed to be just the shadow, like some sort of the silhouette. Like, nobody really knows what he is. So I went into this thinking, okay, like, Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be running from something in the fog. She wasn't the predominant player in this.
No. And that's something I want to talk about a little bit more.
Because her fucking face is plastered on the front of this. But I say she had tops maybe 15 minutes total of screen time.
Possibly.
Maybe 20. Like, but she had like 15 lines.
Yes.
She doesn't do much, which...
We'll get into that a little bit more
Yeah.
later in this.
Let me put me on silent. Okay, sorry, bye.
So today we're taking a look at John Carpenter's pretty popular film, The Fog. This came out in 1980. Directed by John Carpenter, obviously.
Yeah.
Written by Carpenter himself and
John and
his
Debbie.
producing partner, Deborah Hill.
Debbie.
They were a duo for most of his career, and honestly, I wonder if her passing is one of the reasons he hasn't made a movie.
Oh, she died?
Yes.
When did she die? In the 2000s?
A while ago. She passed away, unfortunately.
Oh.
R.I.P.
Sorry, Debbie.
This film infamously stars Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, Janet Leigh. There's a lot of familiar faces that pop up in this one, which we'll get into a few of those in a moment.
Yeah.
This movie also reunites a lot of Carpenter's regulars.
Yeah, this was a Halloween reunion tour.
Essentially. So, like, you had, like, Dean Cundy did the cinematography for this. He also did the cinematography on Halloween. And Halloween 3, I might add.
Which is a good movie. Fuck anybody who says it's not.
We're going to cover that at some point.
Continue.
The film was edited by Charles Bornstein and Tommy Lee Wallace, who Tommy Lee Wallace has been heavily involved with the Halloween franchise was for many years. We get appearances throughout this one from the most prominent right off the bat is John Carpenter himself. He pops up in a very small role. He's like the guy working in the church with the priest at the very beginning.
No!
Yep. Very young John Carpenter.
Excuse me, continue.
We also get a small but lasting role from Nancy Loomis, who was Annie Brackett in Halloween.
Yes.
We also get a role for, I forget his real name, but Sheriff Brackett, who plays Dan, or the guy on the phone.
No way!
Which I always think is nice to see him in anything other than Halloween. Guy didn't get a lot of work as far as I'm aware.
Oh shit, that was him.
He looks a lot different. You can see it though.
I can see it. I can see it. The mustache, the really big mustache that you're like, why? It's still there.
This movie originally released on February 1st of 1980. So it was kind of an early in the year release. Not a lot of people normally go see horror films early in the year. Coming off of Christmas. Nobody really is in the mood, I guess. I always am.
You're always in the mood for any kind of movie. Doesn't matter what.
It was made on a budget of $1.1 million. And took home a box office of $21.3 million.
Holy shit!
Making this one of Carpenter's only real successful films.
Besides Halloween? Oh no, Halloween wasn't as big, right?
Something, since this is really the first time we're talking about John Carpenter, John Carpenter's kind of somewhat infamous for the fact that none of his movies were big hits when they released. Most of them kind of gained their popularity on home video and slowly started to gain traction that way. Like he often was disappointed with like his movie. He put all this effort into a movie, it would come out and it would be pretty much a failure.
No wonder why he's so jaded sometimes.
Yeah, well, he also somewhat has a right to be, given that with Halloween and The Thing alone, he's created some of the most heavy-hitting horror films that have lasted throughout the decades.
Yeah.
The man knows what he has. He is, from what I've heard, somewhat of an ass.
But you know what? The man had to watch some of his movies flop and then become big years later. I feel like he has a right to be an ass sometimes.
He does, and I understand where his mentality has come from. But like, from what I've gathered, he essentially is all about the paycheck, which, you know, so be it. You got to survive. I understand. That's not my viewpoint on filmmaking. I work on films for the love of doing it. Carpenter, he kind of has resigned himself to just collecting the royalties on the films that he has made.
Did he have a hand in the new Halloween that just came out, Halloween Kills?
Yes. So this current franchise of which Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and the upcoming Halloween Ends. John Carpenter is a co-producer on all of these. He has some creative input in the writing, and him and his sons do the score for all of them.
And Jamie Lee has her hand in those too, right? She's an executive producer?
She's an executive producer. I don't know if she really is involved with the writing other than kind of giving her stamp of approval. And I think that's kind of where Carpenter is too. Like, they just kind of run it all by them.
But even if he's an asshole, he wouldn't put his time into a film if he still didn't care.
Correct.
So, yes, if he's just there for the royalties and the paycheck, but cared enough about what he created in the 70s to still sit there and be like, I want a little in on it, he still cares.
Yes.
There's still a love there. But I understand why he's jaded. I really do. Like, I've heard some of the stories and you've told me stuff, and it's like, I don't blame that man for being a chain smoking asshole. Really don't.
Well, he's actually pretty infamous for he said it in a few different interviews. People ask him why he does something, or like oh, why'd you choose to do this? And his response is usually the same every time. He always says, well, something interesting happens where they put a little check right here in the palm of my hand. And that's as far as it goes.
So I have a question for you. You're a huge John Carpenter fan.
I am.
You've said this a few times, but I want you to answer it on the podcast. Do you ever want to meet the man?
As interesting as it would be to actually talk to Mr. Carpenter, I don't know if I ever would want to meet him in person.
And why is that?
I definitely think it falls under the you never want to meet your heroes
Don't meet
thing.
your heroes. Yep.
With the stories I've heard of how challenging of a personality he has, I don't know if I would want, like, I don't know how it would feel like if I were to talk to him and he were to just be an ass. Like, I wouldn't know if I would be okay with it because I would expect it, knowing his what do you call that? His reputation. But I don't know. Like, it could fall into one of those categories where you're like, wow, I've idolized this guy and he is rude as hell.
Yeah. I live the same way. I have so many people that I'd love to meet, but I won't meet them because I don't want to meet somebody with this glorified pedestal example of what they are in my mind, and all of a sudden, like, oh, they were kind of a jerk. But, like, celebrities. There's a reason why celebrities are the way they are. They have paparazzi. You have people trying to pursue stories. You also have fans that are always like, oh my God, I'm your biggest fan. Oh my God. And they hear the same story over and over. You get jaded. You really do, as any kind of work in Hollywood. You get very jaded. I wouldn't want to meet my heroes too. There are some YouTubers I'd like to meet because content creators, I believe, are a lot different than what Hollywood celebrities or Hollywood, like, cast crew, the whole kind of celebrity ball. Content creators are different, but I'm still wary about meeting my favorite content creators. So that's how I feel about it. If you ever meet us, we're as weird as we are here in real life. I'm even weirder.
Yeah, we generally try to just be ourselves on this.
You're seeing us. You're seeing who we are.
Yeah, I don't know how I would feel about meeting John Carpenter. I think it would be cool, but at the same time, I don't know. Nothing if he ever happens to see this. Not that he will.
Nothing against him.
Nothing against you. I idolize you for the work, for your body of work, like the skill that you have to have created such iconic movies in the industry. I will always look up to John Carpenter for that. It'll never be, it's like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Again, reputation for being an asshole, but he was a fucking genius behind
Proof
the
of
camera.
his assholeness is the way he treated
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall from in The Shining. Now, that being said, you will be an inconsolable, blubbering mess when that man dies. I know you will. You will be in that bed, just leave me to die. Like, you will be very sad.
If the coffee and chain smoking ever gives up and John Carpenter passes, I'm gonna need a minute.
Yeah. I will say, Keith Richards, if you are listening to this, please, for the love of God, whatever your secrets to immortality are, please pass them to Carpenter so I don't have to deal with a blubbering mess. Thank you.
But I guess we should probably get into the actual movie.
Yes, I'm going to let you take the lead on this because I had a what the fuck attitude the whole time, and mine is just quips.
Oh boy. Well, I'd like to start out kind of just really talking about...
Fun facts?
Some, yes.
Okay.
But talking about the filmmaking and like the approach to doing this.
Got it.
So this, as I said, this movie was made on $1.1 million, which is not a lot of money in terms of feature filmmaking.
Now
Not
that's
then.
a drop in a bucket. Yeah. Well, 1980, I still think that's quite a bit of money.
It really wasn't.
No, not in filmmaking.
No. Essentially, this was considered a low-budget independent movie, which it is.
Yeah, I didn't recognize any of the production companies that were associated with it.
No, a little over $1 million isn't a lot. But an interesting thing is that John Carpenter still chose to shoot this movie in anamorphic widescreen Panavision, which is generally reserved for big, or at the time at least was reserved for big, huge budget movies.
Well, some of the scenery in that is gorgeous. The sweeping beach, the lighthouse, the small town, like those. Oh, help me.
Locations?
Yes, thank you. Those locations were gorgeous. So why not take advantage of a higher quality to I'm so sorry, to view those, to record those, to film those. What did you put in the coffee?
You made it.
No, I didn't.
Well, to that point, he chose to shoot it in this because it gave his idea was that it would give the film a grander feel for the viewer. So it wouldn't feel like a small movie, it would feel like something much bigger.
Cut to 2021, where this is grainy as shit and kind of looks like crap quality. But that's because of technology. That's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think this movie still looks great. Like, one of the notes I had was that the scenery that this movie showcases is supposed to be of this, like, the surrounding areas of this small town are breathtaking.
They're breathtaking, but then you get to the darker ones and it's just very grainy and very, very shadowy. But that's John Carpenter. Like, I can't complain about the way the man presents a film. I can't. That's who he is. Look at how Halloween was. It was bright, cheery, and beautiful during the day, but when you got to the night shots, I mean, it had to look eerie and hidden, and like it. You can see this. You can tell it's a Carpenter film by the similarities of the filming. The Thing, not so much, but that was a whole different type of location for The Thing to be shot.
The Thing was actually after this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, well, you know what I mean. Like, that's set in like a very cold, dark climate, so there wasn't really like breathtaking shots or beautiful landscapes or anything like that.
There was some in the beginning, but it's like...
Oh, it's with the helicopter
Yeah.
when they're going after the dog. All right, yeah, that's true.
So this movie was originally much shorter. I think it ran the original... the original rough cut was about like 80 minutes or something like that.
I did read a little bit of why it was shorter, or why this version is longer. I was reading a sci-fi article.
So essentially, it was just too short for a theatrical release. So he eventually went back. He shot more scenes, and among these is how the film begins. And we open this movie with a quote from Edgar Allan Poe. And I don't know if I copied it down correctly, but it was something along the lines of all that we see is but a dream within a dream. It went off the screen too fast for me to actually write it all down.
Yeah, let me see if I can keep talking. Let me see if I can find it.
But we follow this up with a campfire tale, a haunting story of the Elizabeth Dane, told by a weathered old sailor to a group of children. This story tells of a clipper ship that met its fate as it was led into the shore on a foggy night by a burning fire and crashed against the rocks, sunk, everyone drowned.
Everyone died, yep.
And the end of this story marks the stroke of midnight, which starts the strange occurrences that begin to plague this small town. I think this is a really fitting way to start this movie, because it introduces you to this plot as a ghost story. Right from the rip, you were expecting a campfire story, and that's exactly what we get.
The quote is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream. How does that fit with the movie?
Well, I mean, essentially, you have to take into account that this is something unexplainable that's happening. Okay. And this could be to the outside world, they would probably view something like this as a occurrence of mass psychosis.
True. Okay.
So, I believe that's what he was getting at. Just like is this real?
Something was in the fog, chemical-wise. The whole town inhaled it. Now they're all thinking they're crazy, seeing things in the fog. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I see what you're putting down.
For me, this has always been one of those stories that's told in fragments, to some degree, because we're following several different characters.
It's following like 3 main plots, essentially.
Yeah, but we're cutting back and forth to all these different people throughout this town as all of this is starting to occur. For the most part, we follow our priest. We follow
Father Malone.
Father Malone.
You follow Elizabeth Warren and her. Oh, I'm going the other way. You're following Father Malone. You're following Elizabeth Warren and her secretary.
Oh, yep.
Elizabeth Williams, I'm sorry, her secretary. I find that funny. Then you're following Nick and
Elizabeth.
Her name is. Oh my God! Everybody's. Oh, she's Elizabeth. The other one's just Mrs. Will. Anyways, you're following Jamie and Tom.
Yeah.
And then you're following Janet and Annie, basically. And then you were following
Nancy. Is her real name?
And then you're following the radio DJ.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have 4 storylines you're kind of following.
Oh, and that's another fun little thing. I think anyway. So our radio DJ is played by Adrienne Barbeau.
Who is who? Who is she?
So Adrienne Barbeau is huge name in 80s cinema.
Yep.
In a lot of John Carpenter movies and several other things. At the time that this was made, I believe that she was John Carpenter's wife.
Yes. Yep. I saw that. I was like, wait, your wife's the main lead? That makes sense.
Well, all right. So John Carpenter is well known for dating or marrying
betting
a lot of people.
Betting lots of ladies?
Well, I wouldn't say lots, but he originally was married to Deborah Hill.
And they stayed friends.
And they stayed friends and producing partners.
That would make sense why her death would be even more devastating, because that was his like first or second wife or something, I think.
First. As far as I know. And then he had a stint where he was married to Adrienne Barbeau. That didn't last, unfortunately, and I don't know if he married anybody after that.
This says different.
What?
He was married to Adrienne Barbeau, and he's still married to Sandy King. He was not married to Deborah Hill.
I'm pretty sure he was. I know they at least dated.
Yeah, possible they dated, but listed as...
I thought they were married at one point. I could be wrong.
No, I don't see it, unless Wikipedia sucks. Which, I don't know if Wikipedia is the greatest thing, but I think you've said before that they were a thing.
Yes. They were definitely a thing. John Carpenter stated 2 inspirations for this movie. Both of which are related to Great Britain, surprisingly.
I read a little bit of this. Okay.
The first was the British film The Crawling Eye.
Didn't read that part.
That movie is about monsters hiding in the clouds. They were inspired. Him and Deborah Hill were inspired by a trip they took to Stonehenge. I'm guessing that I guess when they went, the place was covered in fog.
From the thing I read, the blip I read was he looked over at the nearing hill and the fog was coming down over the horizon off the hill. And his thought was, wouldn't it be awesome if something came out of that? Because Stonehenge is a very creepy place. It's beautiful, but it's kind of eerie because it's where natural ley lines intersect. So there's a lot of overwhelming feeling when you're there with ley lines. You can feel the
electromagnetic
field. You can feel it when you're in those type of places. It's a convergent spot. That's why don't quote me on a lot of this, but I know loose, I believe it was a place where druids would meet, and that's why Stonehenge is very important to older English history. I'm not 100% sure, and don't quote me on any of this, but that's what I believe Stonehenge is. It's a very creepy, eerie place to be. So it would make sense that, a king of horror would be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool?
Have you ever been?
I have never been off the East Coast of America. I've gone from Maine to Florida. The farthest I've ever gone is Pittsburgh, west, and Charlotte, North Carolina. That's as far as I've gone. I would love to go. I have family in Scotland, so I'd love to head out there.
And this movie also has a connection to Hitchcock's The Birds.
Does it?
A small one, and it's definitely intentional.
Is it because of Janet Leigh?
No. So at one point during this movie, Tom Atkins' character mentions Bodega Bay. This is where The Birds takes place. And when in The Birds, when Tippi Hedren's character pulls into town, the shit hits the fan. All hell breaks loose.
Yep.
In this movie, as soon as Jamie Lee Curtis's character pulls into town, the same thing happens.
Shit hits the fan, yeah.
Small things, but it's a nice connection. But where were we? Essentially, this movie hits the ground running fairly quickly.
It does. That's what I was saying to myself. Like, you don't have a chance to breathe. It's like, boom, here you go.
We open with that stroke of midnight, and all these little things start occurring around the town. Stupid things mostly, but like windows break. Things begin to rattle.
All the bottles in a store rattle. The gasoline pump falls off and gas spills out.
Yeah.
All the car alarms go off, and Nancy, or her character, I don't remember what her character's name is, Nancy's like listening to all these car alarms go off in the middle of the night where she's woken up. It's just eerie because you start all this off, and then once 1 o'clock hits, everything stops. It's all done.
But through this, we're also being introduced to our characters. We meet the priest as like a piece of his wall breaks off, and he finds the journal.
The wall breaks off where he was sitting too.
Yeah.
If he didn't move, that man would have been dead.
Yes, true. We meet Tom Atkins as I assume he's driving home.
Yeah, it looks like he's driving home from the dock.
Possibly. We pick him up when he's on a back road.
There's no real backstory about what he's doing, but as the story progresses, you learn that he goes out on the boat with the fishermen and everything. And I'm assuming he came home from the docks, and he picks up Jamie Lee's character, who is Elizabeth.
Yes, and they have a fun little interaction, I think, at first, where she immediately asks him if he's weird.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm weird.
Oh, thank God. I can't take normal. And then it cuts to the windows blowing out in the car. All the windows just boom, blow out. And the next thing we know, they're in bed together. He just picked her up off the side of the road, and now they fucking.
Yes, and the
80s were a weird time.
as ridiculous as that seems, I also try to look at it. This came out in 1980, which means it was made in the tail end
Late
of the 70s.
yeah.
So this was the very end of the whole free love.
If you've seen the
movement.
80s, there was free love everywhere, but no, not really with protection, but there was some protection.
Yeah.
So,
And so, like, I kind of chalk it up to that.
I mean, the 60s was free love. The 70s were all about weird, like, other
It
weird
was
stuff.
still there, though, like, throughout
True.
the 70s.
But you know what? It was refreshing to see the girl next door, Little Miss Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, in bed with, good news, girls, your dates are here. Bad news, they're dead. I love that fucking line. We'll get to that one.
Oh, Tom Atkins.
No, Tom Atkins.
Tom Atkins, I'm not going to lie, he's one of my favorite
Oh my God.
fucking actors
If
from the 80s.
If I ever met that man, I'd shake his hand and be like, I've only been a fan for a few years, but sir, give me your hand. Give me your hand.
He's so awesome.
He is.
Yeah, like, a lot of these early moments of the film kind of glaze past pretty quick.
They do, but it sets up how strange the situation is going to get,
Yes.
in my opinion.
We cut over to them in bed. They're chit-chatting. He's looking at her drawings, because I guess
her
she's an
portfolio.
artist.
And it sounds like she's been hitchhiking for a while. She's kind of a nomad. Like, we
Yeah.
don't find anything out.
We do learn that she's heading to Vancouver.
Yep.
Um, And we get one of our first instances of... Actually, I think it's our second instance of a knock at the door.
Yes.
The fog rolls in,
There's a
and
knock
something
at the
is
door.
knocking at the door.
And at 1 o'clock, the fog pulls out and everything stops.
stops.
And you're kind of like, okay, all right.
This is, of course, after a cutaway to the boat, where the fog literally rolls in off the ocean, and we get our first glimpse of the things in the fog as they kill a bunch of fishermen.
And I loved the article that I read. I loved that John Carpenter wanted to keep it as mysterious as what Michael was supposed to be. They are just silhouettes in the fog. You don't see, even the final act, you don't see shit. You see silhouettes of what they are.
I love that decision. Like, it keeps them as ominous as humanly possible. And you get these small details. You can tell that they're wearing torn clothing. They actually kind of, like, what you do see of them looks like they could be mummies.
Yeah.
And it looks so damn good.
It does.
Backlit in the veil of fog.
It's that it brings you back to a Lovecraftian idea where you cannot see them, and if you see them, you'll be driven insane. I love that idea. And maybe it's because this is a Lovecraft household. We are anything H.P. Lovecraft. Like, any kind of Cthulhu mythos is big for us. Just knowing that just out of reach, just out of sight is this horrific, insanely grotesque thing that will drive you to the brink of madness. And I love it when filmmakers choose, and even authors choose not to tell you what it looks like, but it is just this thing just out of your periphery. I love it. It makes me so happy not to know what you're dealing with.
I agree. And I wholeheartedly would categorize this as a Lovecraftian film. It's not in the sense of giant, unnameable, unimaginable horrors, but it's that impending unknown.
It's the unknown.
That
love it.
unending dread that is coming from something unexplainable.
It is the pit of your stomach, dread, worry. Like, if you're outside, you go outside, you take out the trash, it's like midnight. and the air is quiet. There's no wind. There's no barking. There's no sirens. There's nothing. It's that feeling. It's that unnerving, just what is going to happen. I hate it, but I also love it. And I love it when filmmakers choose that.
And I think one of the things that really makes that element so pronounced in this is the fog itself.
The fog, like anything could hide in that. Anything.
Well, they do an incredible job throughout this entire movie making that fog feel like it's a living, breathing entity.
They do.
Like,
how in the world did they do half of the effects? I saw the reverse.
Yes, there's some
but there was
reverse
some where it
cinematography.
was creeping. It was just insane.
He was able to, like, he uses it as it's like billowing outside the houses as it's, and makes it into this lurking threat that, like, you can't help but wonder what horrors are lurking inside of it.
What could be deeper in that? What is beyond that? Like, ooh.
I love the way it swarms into some scenes and it, like, envelops each location one by one until they have nowhere left to go.
Like, the choice of having Andy and the babysitter behind these huge, beautiful glass doors and windows to where it's like, you think, oh, the fog's not going to get in, you're safe, but it's right there. Like, you are only a window pane away from the danger. And it's like, I can see where this movie in 1980 would have you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
This didn't, because it's older. Like, this movie is like almost 40. No, it is 40 years old, right?
1980 to...
Well, I was 85 and I'm 36. So yeah, this is 42 years.
I think it's absolutely incredible to think that John Carpenter was able to create these like moments with the fog on such a small budget.
Yeah.
Especially with paying an all-star cast like he has in this.
It's just, from what I read, they were just fog machines. They were fog machines manipulated with any kind of wind source.
And
fans
shit.
And leaf blowers and stuff.
It's amazing.
I was like, what the hell? This man, be an asshole. You're a genius. It's fine. I'm okay. I'll send you a carton of cigarettes if you want. Menthol? Non-menthol? Just let me know.
I don't even know if he smokes anymore, actually.
If he doesn't smoke, he's kind of dumb. He's at the end of his years. Smoke him if you got him.
It's hard for me, honestly, it's very hard for me to keep, like, on track of step by step with this movie.
It is, but I've got bulletin points. So after all of this, the fogs happened, we cut away from them. You get the first notes of the score of this movie. And it wasn't until those first notes played did I realize what the score was. You've played this for me so many times. You've played remixes for me. This is a pretty iconic score, even in this household.
So, yeah, this score, like most other Carpenter films, the score is done by Carpenter himself. This one is one of my personal favorite movie scores of all time. It's honestly, I like this more than Halloween.
Honestly, it feels more impending dread than Halloween does. That first one.
It delivers a more eerie, ghostly, like almost Exorcist vibe.
Yes.
That I personally could listen to for hours.
You have listened to it. I've been here.
I have. Actually, funny thing, this is one of my go-to scores to listen to if I'm like doing something, or if I'm... One example is I've actually listened to this while going out by myself, hiking in the woods with headphones and doing photos. I've walked through the woods alone early in the morning. So like dead silence, no one else is out there.
He's a psychopath.
And it made the whole experience of doing that by myself so much more like unique.
All right, so kind of like me, where I had my first photo shoot in October 2019 before COVID and everything happened, and I had played like nature, kind of like Irish Celtic music to get this beautiful like wood photo shoot done with a friend of mine, and having that music just made it more magical, in my opinion. Just got me more into the whole mystical kind of photo shoot that it was. Wish I had a fog machine that day. That would have been fucking bad.
Next time.
Badass. But, you know, I digress. We're going to plan things. But I can see where you're coming from. Music definitely reshapes an experience. It's the reason why whenever I need to get shit done in the house and you're not here, boom! Skyrim Rainy Nights goes on. I can't explain to you why that soundtrack of just the nighttime rain tavern music or like the outside music puts me in a cleaning mood, or lo-fi chill when I read books. Literally, I just sit on the ottoman, look out the window, and read books like that. But music definitely changes your environment. And the first time you played this soundtrack for me, I was like, this is eerie. This music is just eerie. And you have the vinyl of it, and you put the vinyl on when we still had the record player here before we had to move it. Side note, I miss the record player sometimes because
back.
I cannot wait to have that back in the house. We just don't have room for it right now. I mean, we could, but I have to kick out my entire K-pop collection, and we're not doing that.
I absolutely love the way that this film slowly builds.
The action gets going really quick, and then it just kind of, it does this, and then it just builds much slower till the tension just is right there at the end, and then it's done. I was like, I like how this movie is paced. It gives you that impending dread in the beginning, and then lets you get on with the mystery of what's really happening.
It also, like, so the overall dread of this fog and the strange things that come with it. Like you said, it introduces you pretty quick, and then it just slowly starts to build and build and build.
It's your goddamn slow burn movies.
And I love it.
Ugh.
But it builds to these moments of really good tension. Like, my biggest example was this scene, like, right after they save the little kid, and they're in the car, and the car is getting surrounded in fog.
And it's starting, but they're stuck in a pothole, and they can't get it to move, and they're getting closer and closer, and you're, like, sitting there going...
You're seeing the entities, like, around the car.
But even the entities are like, go ahead. We'll let you try and fight and get out. Go right ahead. It's like they're almost fucking toying with them. Like, you're not the one we really want, but we'll get you anyways. Like, I feel like they were methodically going after people. Like, oh, okay, like Jamie Lee Curtis's character didn't have a real tie to the town. Andy was just a kid. I feel like they were after Tom's character, Nick. I feel like they were after residents that lived there that should know better, in my opinion. Only because of the plot line. We're not at the plot. We're not at the big plot story yet, but only because of that fact.
Speaking of Tom Atkins.
Yes.
So we learn pretty late into the film that his character's name is Nick Castle. Do you know why that's significant?
Castle Rock? Stephen King?
No.
Nathan Fillion?
The character is named after John Carpenter's friend who played the Shape in Halloween.
Oh, Nick Castle! No way! That's pretty cool.
I thought that was fun. It's a nice little
touch. So he did that, and then he literally wrote the part in it for Jamie.
Yeah.
So, like, this was, I really had fun on Halloween. I'm just going to put everybody back in.
Pretty much. Anybody that was willing.
I mean, Halloween made Jamie who she was. I don't think she'd say no to John. I really don't.
Probably not. Carpenter also uses this movie as, like, a good excuse to change things up.
What do you mean?
So, like, on Halloween, everything was very reserved. Everything was minimal. That was his goal. It was very...
Halloween was minimal? Halloween was minimal. Halloween was gory. Halloween was graphic.
There's no blood in Halloween. None.
Wait a minute. No. Even when he pins him to the door?
Nothing.
But your shirt has blood on it.
No, it doesn't.
fuck's this shirt? Get this shirt. Is this one of the shirts that's gone now, though?
No, it's like packed away somewhere.
It's buried deep.
But no, there's no blood in Halloween. It's a very minimalistic movie. And in this movie, he does the same thing. No gore.
I even was going to say that when they were stabbing the fisherman. I'm like, where's all the blood?
No blood. But everything was minimalistic in Halloween. Like, everything was darkly lit. Everything was
Halloween was
similar.
like on a tinier budget than what this movie was, correct?
I believe so. This one, he makes... One of the things I noticed was his lighting choices were more intense.
Yeah.
A lot of scenes felt like they came out of, like, Suspiria.
I had to make a note. Why is the fog day glow? Like, the fog literally had a fucking hippies, weed smoking, fucking black light tone to it.
Well, I think initially the idea was so that they could do those really nice backlit shots of the entities, the ghosts. But it also adds to that, like, ethereal, otherworldly feeling that this is not normal fog.
Yeah, this isn't like your everyday run-of-the-mill tiny little mist droplets. This is, this shit in here that's gonna kill you. Bye, run.
I think that's why he wrote it in. Like, he made it part of the fog, that it glows, so that he could achieve the look he wanted. And it was a smart choice. It looks fucking awesome.
It does look awesome. I do have to say, the fog rolling in over the bay from the scenes of the lighthouse, they didn't age well. Some of it, like, it stutters a little.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the one where she's closing in on her son. That one right there.
Yeah, she's saying, oh, the fog's moving in over the bay, and it cuts to this shot, because I made note of it.
Yep.
It's one shot. The rest of the shots look pretty good.
They look good. This shot was like...
This one, it looked like they took they superimposed, like, something over a matte painting, and they just kind of slid it across. And it doesn't look great. It doesn't age well.
It looks like at one point they were sliding it okay, and, like, somebody pushed too hard, and it went... Like, and you're like...
Stuttered.
Hey, guys.
I mean, it is what it is.
It shit happens. Then you buy a duck, you know?
I can overlook it.
Yeah. So, where are we in the plot? Okay, so we wake up the next day, and the son of the radio broadcaster finds a piece of gold that he goes, oh, what's that? The waves brush over it. It turns into driftwood that says Dame on it. Or Dame? Yeah, it says Dame on it. And he's like, oh, Mom, I found this wood.
Dane. D-A-N-E.
Oh, Dane. I thought it was Dame.
Elizabeth Dane.
Dane. Okay. So I was like, all right, well, that's kind of eerie because they were talking about the boat in the story, the Elizabeth Dane. Okay, kind of creepy. So he brings it back to his mom. Mom takes it with her. Next shot is we're introduced to Janet Leigh's character, which looks like she's just a town busybody, works for like some sort of like the mayor. I don't know. Yeah. I only know there's her husband's one of the fishermen that go missing the night before.
I'm unclear of what her role in the town is.
She just seems like the Karen of the town. Excuse me, pardon me, coming through.
Well, I think she's in office of some kind, but I don't know what.
But let's just say Janet Leigh in 1980, she looked good. But also in 1978 when Halloween came out, Jamie was only like 18. So that means Jamie was probably only like 20, 21, 22 at this time. So she wouldn't have looked really much older, but she looks good even though she's got that white blonde hair. She looks like the mom. But I'm like, damn. And I'm still astonished I never put fucking 2 and 2 together. I know this was episodes back where I was like, wait a minute, that's her mom? Still to this day, I'm like, oh, look, Janet Leigh. That's right. That's her fucking mother. Like, she looks good. But I have to say, Jamie looks a lot more like her father than she does like her mother. She looks more like the Curtis side, I think.
I can definitely see the
now that
resemblance
she's
in her
this
face,
age,
though.
now that she's in her 70s.
I don't know for sure.
Oh, God. Now I need to see. How old is Jamie Leigh? Still on John Carpenter, so, you know, there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jamie Leigh. She's still hot. 63.
63.
So, I mean, she looks fine. She looks great. want to look like her when I'm 63. God damn. Also, was this when she started her short hair phase? Because I don't know any other movie besides Halloween where she has longer hair. True Lies, she had short hair.
Possibly. I know she did she's in Terror Train and Prom Night. But I think she still has longer hair in those.
Really? I hated her haircut in this. Hated it. It
Well,
was
it's
like
that,
that longer
feathery...
mullet. I mean, Adrian had a better feathered hairdo.
Yeah, but
Adrian
Barbeau's hair is just naturally heavily curly. So it
floofed out like that, and I'm just sitting there going, I want her hair.
Jamie's is more of that straight hair that's feathered. Yeah. So it hangs.
Like how do you do your hair like that? Like I want to know. Like were the 70s and 80s just different? Because I have hair that just.
I mean, you could probably do a mild feathering to yours. It's possible.
Yeah, if I put a blowtorch to it.
Oh God.
I look stupid.
No.
Yeah.
Where were you?
So we get to, Nick and Elizabeth are now going around town. Nick was like, "Oh, I'm going to take you out on the boat."
Well, he's investigating. His friends didn't come back.
Yeah, his friends didn't come back, so he's like, "Oh, okay, let's go out on another boat and go to find them." Puts a call out to the Coast Guard. The radio lady's like, "Oh, if anybody's seen this boat, please get in contact with us. We're looking for it." So then they do find the boat, unfortunately, with no one aboard. But the boat looks weird. Like it's been underwater for ages, and everything is just soaked and rusted and rotted and doesn't look good. Which can attribute to the entities going on board and aging anything that they touch, I believe. Or what they touch or what they're in suffers the same curse that they do, I guess.
Erodes.
Yeah. So Nick and Elizabeth are sitting there talking for a little bit. I don't know where they are. There's no sign of them. Elizabeth does something, moves somehow, and one of the guys ends up a corpse lying on top of her or on her back. And she is traumatized. And we get the signature Scream Queen scream. She does this scream that is blood curdling. And I'm like, I love Jamie. I hope Jamie can still scream like that. I really do. Although watching Halloween Kills, she does a lot of different screaming in that movie.
Yeah. From
pain, from anger. It's very different.
I'm very excited to see where that ends.
Honestly, I've heard we're going to cut. I know we're going to go off track with a lot of stuff with this one. That movie, when we watched it Halloween night, we decided, no, we're going to watch Halloween Kills on Halloween while everybody was trick-or-treating and having a good time. I liked that movie. I actually was very surprised. I'd heard a lot of negative reviews. Yeah. Not verbally for anything. Like, we were literally sitting in a doctor's office waiting for me to get blood work. And all we heard was, "Oh, don't go see it. Don't bother. It's terrible." And he was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I'm sitting here. People haven't seen this movie. Don't ruin it for people. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, you know what? We'll cast our own judgment. After watching it, we understand why people didn't like it. Because people don't like to accept certain things at face value. Because this movie was made pre-pandemic. Pre-everything. And I see why they made the call, we're not going to release it this year, we're going to release it afterwards. There was some material in there that was a little sensitive. There was. Yeah. Us, we're like, whatever. But I can see. And it's like, don't judge the material that's in the movie like that. Judge the storyline. That storyline was very impactful. It was very impactful on the basis of what Michael is. Yes. Michael Myers instills fear. Unadulterated, pure fear into anybody or anything. You could be a tough, fucking brutal asshole, but when you're facing fear right there and then, you back down. That's what Michael is. So I'm very excited to see from where that movie ended, where we're gonna go. Because it's literally Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. That's all it is. Like, I cannot wait. Cannot wait to see what happens.
This conversation has gone off the rails.
It really has. It has. We're still in Carpenter territory, so it's fine. All right, back to where do we leave off? So, we get to the point where now we're following the radio announcer, and she's heading to work, and it is beautiful scenery for her heading to work, where she runs the radio station through the old lighthouse that still runs.
Which I think that's really cool.
I think that's gorgeous. A lot of lighthouses now are all basically operated by computers. You don't have to have somebody there all the time. But it's really cool that she repurposed it as a broadcasting station because it's the highest point and she can get to That's great. She also has one hell of a vantage point when this fog starts rolling in.
Yeah, she essentially takes over, like she even says to her son over the radio at one point, I'm sorry, I have to stay here. And then you see why, because she's like calling out what the fog is doing.
Yeah. Everybody go, bolt your doors, hide, don't open the door, stay bunkered down. If you have to hide, if you're out, get to the old church, basically.
Yeah.
And we're skipping a lot because there's a lot of just the fog. It's a lot of just the fog as a character throughout this whole thing.
Moving throughout the town.
We cannot describe how amazing just the cinematography is and the effects this is. And from what I read, they all used practical effects with this. There was any matte painting was the only real effect that they used After Effect.
Right.
Like all of it was cast and crew, blowing shit, fog machines, wind machines, using reverse technology. I was like blown away. It was like a 20-minute sequence of just the fog taking over everything, basically. And Nick and Elizabeth and the other two just trying to hide. Trying to get away. Well, they do rescue the broadcaster's son. The babysitter unfortunately gets sucked into the fog.
Yes.
Before that, when we get to the station, I completely forgot about this scene. She has the driftwood with her, and she's listening to promos for the station about how to announce you're listening to blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And she puts she's still playing. She puts it down. She puts the driftwood on top of the 8 tracks. She goes. She still listens, checking stuff. And all of a sudden, the radio warps into something else. And I didn't catch any of the lines, unfortunately. Warps into somebody speaking
it
about...
starts to
do the warble thing.
It starts to slow down.
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
Yep.
And that's because we see that it's getting wet.
Yes. The driftwood is literally leaking water, or seawater, everywhere. And then it shorts the tape out, and then the driftwood explodes and says 6 must die on it. She gets a fire extinguisher, blows out everything, and everything goes back to normal, but there's seawater everywhere still. So she's seeing firsthand something's not right. So now we as an audience know that 6 must die. And then we get to the part where, along in those lines, Janet Leigh and Nancy's characters get to Father Malone, and Father Malone is reading them the diary. And what had happened was 6 original people had gathered between midnight and 1 o'clock on April 1st, 1880, as a plot to destroy the Elizabeth Dane because it carried people who had leprosy. And they planned on living near the town a little ways away, start a new life, and they
said about a mile
up the road or something, and they had a plot to kill all of them because they had a substantial amount of gold that would help this community, but they didn't want the lepers to live there because leprosy back then was a very bad thing. I don't know much about leprosy. All I know is there's a leper song from Jesus Christ Superstar. That's all I know.
I don't know.
Oh my God, that's one I should make you watch. But it come to find out these 6 people conspired between 12 o'clock and 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. That's why everything's happening between those times. 6 people must be taken for the 6 co-conspirators that killed all of these people on this boat.
Yes.
They set a light. The signal fire was supposed to show them where to go. They lit the fire on the beach near the rocks. That's why the boat was destroyed and everyone was killed. So now the fog is basically people on a mission for revenge because they were killed for no reason other than being different.
Yes.
That's where I turn around and go, oh, this is a nice story.
Well,
this is a good ghost story.
This is actually a good point to bring up that this story carries with it some pretty strong themes that are even strong today. The idea that this is a community founded on lies, built on the blood of innocent lives, and a curse that's coming to roost. There's themes of like the consequences of our forefathers' sins bearing down on our generation. Mm-hmm. These are things that we still see in movies today. Yes. And Carpenter having the know-how and like this foresight to utilize these in 1980, with a simple campfire tale it's genius.
Simple ghost story that would curl your toes when you're a kid. You go out, you go to camp, you stay for the night, you get told a ghost story, you can't sleep, you're all spooked. As adults, we're like, it's a ghost story. But like as kids, we were really into Are You Afraid of the Dark with the ghost stories around the campfire. So it's nice that there's an adult version of this where it's like, oh no, we're going to kill all you because of this.
That's the thing. Like, yes, you can watch this movie through the lens of it's a ghost story. It's a simple ghost story that could be for kids, really. Or you can look at its deeper themes and realize that this movie isn't just a simple campfire tale. It's something that we should consider as adults.
It's got like a really kind of like, it's not a straight line truth, but it's got kind of like a roundabout truth that the sins of the forefathers will eventually catch up to the children.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, there's a deep meaning. So it's got Lovecraftian, it's got his like that weird historical like passed down tale, like it's got like a little droplet of truth in it. Like Carpenter might be an ass, but he's a smart ass.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
What was next?
From there, after that, there's a little bit of like the fog stuff, a little bit of fluff stuff that happens in the between. But once they save the kid, they head to
church.
The church. You see that during all that time, the town is actually celebrating their centennial anniversary.
Yes.
This is why the curse has come to around full circle. It's been 100 years. They want their revenge. The whole town is out to see this new statue that was erected for the centennial. My thought was, when they had gotten into the car to go back, Janet Leigh's character and Nancy's character get in the little like not the SUV, it's like the station wagon to go to the church or to go home, and then they get to the church. How many of those citizens were still out trying to go home? How many people actually died? It said 6 must die. But in my opinion, all of those people were still out. Not even near home.
We don't know. We only know what we saw. So
that was what bothered me. Like, even before we got to the climax of the movie, you had the sheriff, the all these citizens, all these kids, everybody out celebrating the centennial anniversary at night, no doubt.
So this is actually a good moment to bring up that there is a remake of this movie.
What?
Yes. Came out in around 2005, and it stars Tom Welling from Smallville.
I don't know who that is.
He's Superman. But it's not good. The remake is very bad. But I think, if I remember correctly, because I often confuse this with one of the episodes of Supernatural, I believe it was called Red Sky at Morning, where there's like a ghost ship. That episode is heavily influenced by the fog.
Okay.
But I think in the remake they actually make an attempt to like further play on some of the elements that this movie doesn't.
Okay.
Like, I believe the statue is somewhat more involved. Like, they actually show it to you in like much greater way. And if I remember correctly, the whole 6 must die thing is elaborated on, where the spirits are actually hunting down 6 specific descendants.
I'm on the first paragraph of the plot in Wikipedia.
For the remake? It's bad.
Oh my god.
But I get what they were trying to do. Like, they were trying to elaborate more and make it a more focused story.
Yeah.
It just sucked. It was just terrible.
This is... Oh my god. This is nothing like what we just watched.
No, and luckily that...
The dates aren't even right.
No. Luckily that came out in 2005, so we don't ever have to fucking watch it.
But if y'all want us to watch this and do something...
Oh boy.
Well, we might have a way to do this. I don't want to watch this. But Selma Blair's in it. I really do like Selma Blair.
Oh, but the movie is... Selma Blair is the Adrienne Barbeau character.
The Stevie Wayne, yeah. I like Selma Blair. She's cool. Anyways.
So, yeah, all the characters start to basically converge on the church.
Yep.
And except for Adrienne Barbeau, who's tending the lighthouse.
And the Father Malone never read past the conspiracy to murder the boat or what happened, because he didn't want to go further. So Janet Leigh's character grabs it and starts reading. And what she reads is, I have gone against my 6 other conspirators. I have taken the gold. I've hidden it in the church. And they dig through the walls and find a giant gold cross, which Father Malone, as the entities from the fog are bearing down on the church, they're ripping apart windows. They're slow punching window panes, which are like painted. Like, it's not even the sugar glass. It is just a pretty tissue paper that they go, and I'm like, all right, there's another nod to practical effects right there. But they're bearing down on them, and he realizes, I'm a direct ancestor. I must sacrifice myself. So he brings the cross out there, and Tom Atkins' character, get the fuck out of there. He rescues him.
Well, so when he takes the cross out, he's confronted by... The room is filled with the fog and the entities, most primarily Blake, who is he was the captain, I believe.
And the entities are still encased in shadow, encased in darkness, but all you see is Blake's pulsing red eyes.
And fun fact here.
Fun facts! I like fun facts.
The ghost of Blake was played by none other than Rob Bottin.
I don't know who that is. Who is that, sweetheart?
Rob Bottin he was also the makeup effects artist on this movie. He's also the makeup effects artist for The Thing. He is one of the most infamous effects artists in the industry because of The Thing.
Yeah.
This was his first ever job in the industry. I believe he was introduced to John Carpenter through a friend.
Yep.
And he was asked to do this movie because of his physical stature. Because Rob Bottin's a pretty big dude. He's somewhat tall. And
yeah,
he's
he was
big.
super imposing when I saw him on there.
So Carpenter met him and was like, you would be perfect to play this because you're huge. And it just so happens he had a background in makeup effects.
Yeah.
Without that chance meeting, we never would have had The Thing.
And I mean, there are some things in The Thing, some of those images that he made. Dude, what the fuck, man? Like, I will never forget the one scene that stays with me always is when they have the defib and they go to defib him and his chest opens up and it's just honk. I'm like, oh my god, The Thing makes me sick. Good, but makes me sick.
One other thing I would like to mention about this movie before we kind of wrap up the plot here, is that this movie, at least the lighthouse portions, I'm not sure about the rest of it, but was shot at a lighthouse in Point Reyes, which is part of Marin County in California. It's an actual place that you can go visit today. It's still intact.
Oh, wow.
Still as gorgeous as ever.
Oh.
I've always wanted to go to this place at some point in my life. I don't know if I ever will.
We'll take a trip.
It's California.
Look,
but
California is a nice place if you don't go anywhere near LA.
Yeah.
Or San Diego.
Apparently there's over 300 steps leading down to that lighthouse.
I was wondering how bad... And she was in heels, too.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
All right. So
the entities get the gold cross. Father Malone's saved. Nobody else dies. Everybody goes their way. And the last scene you see is Father Malone in the church quietly ask, but they needed 6. Why didn't they take me? And the fog rolls back in and Blake comes back. And the final scene is Blake coming through the door with a hookup. You hear but see nothing, and it ends there. Blackout. And I'm just like, that's very Carpenter-esque.
yes. I think that was a very perfect way to end this movie. I always felt like this movie was like the perfect thing for Carpenter to make for television.
Yeah.
I don't know if it ever, like, it does play on television.
I've never seen this movie before. I've never heard of this movie till I started dating you.
It's generally on, like, Sci-Fi Channel. They'll play it.
Sci-Fi Channel's scary because, Sharknado. I don't trust them.
I don't want to talk about what Sci-Fi has delved into in fucking recent past.
Yeah.
But personally, I've always loved this movie. I love that, like, campfire ghost story atmosphere that it delivers on, and I think it delivers heavily.
Very well. Very well.
Yeah, like, I guess we're getting into the final questions.
Yeah.
Already, but like, what were your impressions? What were your overall thoughts on this one?
Going in the first ever time I've seen this, I've seen a couple of Carpenter movies. Going into this, I had an idea of who Carpenter is as a director and the direction he likes to go. There was no surprises with this. I thought this was very it's very basic because I've seen Halloween, but then I've seen The Thing. So there's two very different sides of Carpenter. Like, The Thing is gory and gross and disgusting and but Halloween is methodical and meticulous and slow. So this was kind of like a middle ground kind of thing. I liked this personally. I did wish that it had a little more substance to it. It feels like it's lacking. Like you said, this would be a good a whole movie or a television broadcast. I don't think I would have seen this in theaters. I'd have been like, okay. It was basic to me. It's tough coming from the basic queen herself, but this felt very basic. Good, but very basic.
I can understand that point of view, and to an extent I agree. Like, it's a film that is meant to be simple. Much like Halloween, it's meant to be simple. The horror in it is that fear of the unknown. And it's actually funny that you equated this originally to a Lovecraftian story, because even Carpenter has said in an interview before, talking most specifically about like Halloween and The Fog is like early work, but that one of the things he brings up often is that the true horror, it's an anecdote really, that like the true horror is, we often like to equate that true horror is out there. It's the other.
Yep.
It's something we can't perceive, but that's not the case. It's like that real horror comes from within.
Yeah.
It's in our own human hearts. And I think, like most of his other stuff, that's what this story is aiming to say. It's, yeah, technically if you look at it in its basic form, the horror in this movie is coming from out there. It's from beyond.
Yeah.
But that's not the horror of this movie. The horror is what we did to cause that.
Yeah.
It's the horrors that we as humans can commit will bring about something far worse.
It's pretty telling for what the state of the world is in lately. Like, honestly. Didn't even think about that, really. I thought of it as just, it's just a basic horror movie. Like, it's not really anything that special. But no, now that makes a lot more sense. Thinking that this is a story about the horrors that the forefathers of this town did. And they just want revenge for, essentially murdering all these people because they didn't want them.
Yeah.
It's something that's like, it's just a made up story. Is it really a made up story nowadays? I mean, the world is full of things like this that have actually happened.
Yeah.
Which is even more terrifying when this was just supposed to be a story. So.
Did you have any favorites from this one?
I didn't have any favorite lines. I think the only line that I actually wrote down was, "Hope no one else out there gets lost in the fog," which kind of sat with me pretty well, where you get lost in the hatred, or you get lost in this one track situation. Like, it could be literally from the fog, or literally from this town's plot of killing these people so they can keep going, rather than bringing these people in and working together with them. I mean, they probably could have worked together fine with them if, they just kept their distance and, okay, you have leprosy, you guys got to stay there, but we'll help each other as much as we can. I mean, how hard would have that been to let these people live? I don't know. But it was just an interesting quote. It feels a lot deeper than it should just on the outside. Like, it feels like that quote meant a lot more. Favorite scene? Probably when they were trying to kill Stevie Wayne on top of the lighthouse. And she's like, "Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God." And then she slashes at him and you can see he's algae covered with maggots or something coming out of him. That's the only time you see one of these things up, is just this side of his face.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm very I was like, I didn't really want to see them, but I'm happy it's just like this bit.
Yeah.
Even the final scene, you don't see shit. You see arms and that's it. You see nothing else. So. Pretty much it for me. What about you?
It's hard for me to pick a favorite scene because I've grown up with this movie. I really love the whole thing. But there are some favorite bits of dialogue. Most notably, my absolute favorite part of this whole movie is that opening campfire story.
Oh, the old guy telling the story. Yeah.
I can't recite you the whole thing, but
No.
It is amazing. Like, it is so impactful right off the bat, and it gets me every time. It's actually, if you listen to the soundtrack, the first track is that. The first track is just him telling the story. Old man telling the story.
You're gonna have to play me this final track.
It's
once we
so
have it again.
good. Couple of small ones that I like are you weird? Yes, I am. I am weird. And then there's no fog bank out there. Hey, there's a fog bank out there. That's always... I
hated that character, by the way. Skipped over all of his shit.
Oh God.
The fucking weatherman. He was sleazy.
Oh yeah.
Oh hey, sweetheart, get off my fucking phone. Gross.
Yeah. One line that stood out to me this time. I've seen this movie more times than I can count.
So many times, yeah.
But this time, John Carpenter has a very small part in this movie. But he says one line that was so fucking telling that I couldn't help but laugh.
What was that?
"Father, can I get paid?" I almost died because knowing John Carpenter always talks about the money all the time.
And knowing that back in the late 70s, early 80s, he was still like...
He had none. Because he was still making shit on his movie. movies. It just made me laugh.
Come see me tomorrow. Fuck you.
Does it work?
Yes, I think it does. And if they've already made a remake, it works. Was the remake a commercial success? I don't know.
No.
I want to say if I've never fucking heard of it, and it was remade in 2005, that's when I used to go to the theaters. I've never heard of this remake. So I think it works for the time. It's very simple. It's very basic. It is a horror movie that isn't horrifying, but it does make you think. So yes, I believe it does work.
I mean, I love this movie. I personally feel like it works. I feel like if you like Are You Afraid of the Dark, like campfire stories, this works. It's a simple ghost story. If you're looking for something like The Conjuring, don't fucking watch this.
No.
Nope. You have to be in. This is not going to work for everybody.
No.
I guarantee you that a lot of people today won't enjoy this the way we diehard horror fans do. If you're in it for gore alone, don't watch this. It's not that type of movie. I'm just going to go right into, I don't recommend this to certain people.
No, but I would say if you are trying to get into horror and you don't know where to start, this would be on a list of start with this. If you're not a huge horror fan, but you want to put your toes into the shallow end, this is the shallow end. This is pretty easy. Like, there's no gore. There's no real big violence. There's just a simple supernatural thriller horror story in it. It's not Saw where people are cutting off limbs.
No.
And it's not fucking Human Centipede where you're sewing somebody's face to an asshole. No. This is simple. Simple is not bad.
No.
It's not bad sometimes. Some people want a little bit of a fright, but they don't want to be subject to fucking gore and horror. Like, horrific horror. This is pretty good if you're trying to start simple. Yeah.
I recommend this to anyone who's trying to introduce their kids to horror.
Yes. I would say like 9 or 10. Anything younger, I don't know. I would recommend this to my nephew. My nephew's 5, but he's very into horror.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird how very into horror he is. He kind of worries me. You know, hey, parents, he's going
to grow up to be a serial killer.
Yeah, good luck. Sister's going to yell at me. But I would recommend this for him. Yeah, this is rated R because, oh no, like she's covered. They slept together. Ooh. Who hasn't seen that in a fucking normal 8 to 10 episode of a show on NBC now?
I definitely recommend this. Like, if you have a kid who's already interested in horror elements,
start him with this. Don't go to the thing. Don't go to the thing. Go to this.
Like, I'd put this on the list with like Gremlins and
Gremlins.
Fucking,
I almost said Chopping Mall.
No, not Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall. I don't know why I already went there.
Gremlins and Critters and things like that. Like,
Critters? I haven't seen Critters and I'm terrified. Don't recommend children Critters.
Critters is awesome.
You're a psychopath that watched horror movies at 3. Still need to talk to your parents. Tomorrow's Christmas. I'm talking to your parents.
Go for it.
Remind me. But yeah, like if you want to ease your kids into horror, start simple. I would love, and in the comments of the podcast or the video or anything, tell us what kind of movies you'd like recommendations. Shawn knows all sorts of horror. He can help you if you really do want to get into horror. Like, my recommendations that eased me into it are old ones. Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, anything like this. Those are good easing into it. Yeah, back then those were terrifying movies. Now, not so much. No. It's a nice ease. Start with the older stuff. Start with Nosferatu. That's about as old as you can get, but it's still classic horror. Any of the Hammer horrors. Like, if your kids are really showing like Five Nights at Freddy's or Piggy, a lot of parents will know what I'm talking about. These kids are getting into more and more kind of Slender Man, like graphic horror things. Start them off easy with classics. Show them to appreciate the classics, then go into Saw, when they're a teenager. So.
How would you make this today?
No. Leave this there. We've tried it. Did not work. Let it go.
Yeah, somebody already fucked this up in 2005.
Look, there's a reason why John Carpenter stuff is classic. Not just a few of John Carpenter stuff. His stuff is classic. End of story. Didn't he do Escape from New York?
Yes.
The Thing. He's done a number of amazing films. I don't know all of them. You could probably say them. All of them are classics. There's a reason why it's a Carpenter classic. There's a reason why that phrase exists in horror. Or thriller. Or adventure. Or action. Carpenter's movies are good, solid movies. Leave Carpenter's shit where he made it in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Leave it there.
Obviously, I agree.
Oh, yeah. We need to stop agreeing on everything. Oh, my God. We're 16 episodes in. We're supposed to be some healthy dynamic here.
I think we have it.
Especially in Arachnophobia.
The Fog is something I don't think ever should be remade.
No.
Somebody already tried and failed.
That's not to say that somebody couldn't.
However, here's a thought. Have you ever seen the show Harper's Island?
No.
So, briefly, Harper's Island was essentially a retelling of And Then There Were None. The Agatha Christie novel.
I don't know Agatha Christie.
Clue.
I'm sorry. Clue. Okay. All right. Clue.
Same deal.
Okay.
A bunch of people go to an island and are systematically picked off by a serial killer. That's what Harper's Island is. We should watch it at some point. That'd be cool.
Sounds like what that fucking Mystery on the Nile movie that's coming out later this year.
That's different circumstance, but similar.
Kind of sounds very towing the line.
If somebody were to take this story and tell it like Harper's Island, one season mini series. I think Harper's Island was 12 episodes. You could do
limited
it in less.
series are the best way to do remakes because it's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But if you make it a limited, you can pull more character development,
Yeah.
more story, elaborate a lot more.
I feel
on
that this movie could benefit from character development.
It could. I mean, back then, like, how much really did you need to know about these
You
characters?
didn't.
But I'm going to say it now because we've got the Roku thing sliding across the screen, and I see WandaVision sliding across all over. WandaVision is the perfect example of that story could not be told in one movie. It couldn't. That movie would have been 8 hours long. Having WandaVision in that limited series run, and Kevin Feige already said it's not, that's it. WandaVision was it, one and done because of the pandemic. It was great to have that. Watch it at home, great. It gives you a chance to flesh out more of a story. And I'm loving it. I love going to the theater. I love these epic tales. But there is something coming from a Japanese drama or a Korean drama fan where I watch these limited shows, these limited series that bring out these beautiful tales and string it out. That would be perfect. A lot of these movies that have where we hope, I wish there was more character development. I wish there's more as a story. I wish I knew more backstory. It would work for this stuff. It really would.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if you're gonna remake something now, why not go the extra mile and just embellish, like, elaborate on what's already there?
Yeah.
So if somebody has aspirations to remake this again, do it that way. Like, that's my recommendation.
I still say no, but
I don't think you should, but if you're gonna,
but
do it that way.
yeah.
At least then you're getting something extra out of it.
Yeah.
Is this exploitation or other?
Yes. I would say this is other. I feel like most horror is grindhouse. I don't know, I just feel like the horror genre should have its own grindhouse because that's where a lot of the weird grindhouse stuff is. It's invested in this creepy horror, this Lovecraftian kind of mysterious, weird genre of horror. of movies. And I'm going to say it's not exploitation, but I think it's other. I believe. Yes.
So, while technically, and like just by popularity's sake, you really wouldn't classify this as exploitation, I think in some instances it is. Like, it does strive to be like a ghost story. It strives to be a little bit more than your average haunting type of story. It doesn't really go hard into the exploitive elements, so it may have played.
It's a fine line.
Yeah,
it's a very teetered fine line.
You probably could have seen this in sleazy theaters at one point or another, or things like it. But no, ultimately, it's not an exploitation film.
That's fine. You can be wrong.
I'm just gonna go fuck myself. Before we wrap up this episode, I actually would like to pose another small experiment.
Oh no. Homework.
And honestly, this may be a semi-regular thing that I try to do.
With I like this thinking. So you hit me with a good one for Casablanca. Hit me with one with this.
This one's a little simpler.
Okay.
But it's something I thought of that I had to note. So early in this movie, Jamie Lee mentions that she feels like this is happening because of her. Like, all these weird things are occurring. And that she's bad luck, and that bad things tend to happen around her. Sometimes, I like to think of her character as a continuation of Laurie Strode. Bear with me. Maybe Laurie left town after the events of Halloween 2. She ran away. She traveled. And along the way, she got picked up hitchhiking by Nick Castle. And she gave him this fake name, Elizabeth, so she wouldn't be tied to her past. And her story goes on.
And the reason why the other girl looks so much like Annie is because she misses her friends. Is because she's seeing her friends that she abandoned from Haddonfield. I hate you! Oh, now I'm going to sit here and make this elaborate story. Okay, so now whoever wants to remake The Fog, here you go. Here's a little, that's fucking uncanny. Yeah, what if Laurie Strode really is a cursed object? And now wherever she goes, these mysterious events just follow her. What the fuck,
It's just a
Shawn?
fun thought experiment.
What? Oh my god. And like, she breaks down and she looks very traumatized when all this shit's happening to her. And that's why she asks him if she's weird. Because she's weird. Because she's a curse. I gotta go. I'm done. Bye, guys. I'm gonna yeet myself out of here. Oh my god.
Let me know if you're liking these little experiments. I'm gonna try to keep them going, like, whenever I think of them.
Look, we have another podcast to record today. I'm going to need you to stop blowing my mind, please, and thank you. And I still have to make Christmas cookies, okay? And it's not dark yet.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
That wraps up our discussion of The Fog. But please don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the coming attractions.
A little ride in sunny France. A little ride down a long road. A holiday soon to go wrong. Why don't you go? Just go. Yes, I think I will. I think I'll do just that. Horribly wrong. With a killer stalking you. He's killed before. Why not again? You're young. And suddenly, you're alone and vulnerable. And who can you trust? A little ride in sunny France.
So, to be completely transparent,
So transparent.
neither of us have ever seen anything involving this movie. So, as our viewers, you have just seen more than we have.
Yes. Shawn sent me, when we started talking about the podcast, he sent me a list of movies that are considered grindhouse films. And because we wanted to pull our own versions, but we also wanted to actually pepper in proper grindhouse, as you can tell from the title, this is an A. I'm going through the alphabet picking movies out. You'll be able to tell which one are mine. I pulled this because the title sounds badass. And Soon the Darkness. I don't know why. I did not read the synopsis. I know nothing about this film. The cover looks badass. I bought it. End of story. That's all I know. That's all we know. I cannot wait to sit down and watch this. I don't even know reviews. I remember seeing a blip that there's nudity in it. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't try to do any beforehand research for this one. I'm interested to see what it is. The title does sound really cool. The cover art is great.
Oh, it is.
I'm excited. I like anything from the Grindhouse era, so I'm interested.
So instead of asking is this Grindhouse, it's going to be what kind of Grindhouse this is.
Yeah.
Which I'm really excited because we've only done 2 proper Grindhouse movies so far, and they were essentially the same Grindhouse movie.
Yes.
I pulled this out of my ass, people. Out of my ass. I cannot wait because this might be the first time where we get a real taste of American. I don't even know if this is an American Grindhouse movie. I don't know. It could be Italian. It could be anything.
We will find out.
We will find out.
And something I want us to try and do a little more when we're wrapping up our episodes. Mm-hmm. Where can people find you?
You can find me. Well, I live in Rhode Island. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see.
Don't tell people that.
We've told them that. We just don't know. You just don't know where in Rhode Island. Let's see. I have to look up what my thing is because I have 2 Instagrams. But I actually want to pull up the proper one. So my Instagram online is Leah Diana Photography, all one word. You'll know because it's just shots of photographic shots. Photographic shots. I haven't made a separate Facebook, but I have a personal one, obviously. It's tied in with the Grindhouse one. And I also have a Twitter. It's at Grindhouse Cast. I have a separate one too, but I'll be mostly on that. You can also find me on the Discord. I use my Discord all the time. I'm on my Discord at home, on my phone, all the time. So if you have any questions, you want to talk, you want to ask anything, I encourage people to ask us questions. Like, you just saw this trailer. If you've seen the movie before and you want to ask a specific question asked, or maybe in the future we'll do a Q&A. We'll answer some questions that you guys ask us. You want to know more about us? You want to know more about the collection?
Ask us stuff on the Discord and we'll answer it in future episodes.
Absolutely. We'll make a separate tab. It's not there yet, but we'll make a separate tab about Q&A. That's really where you can find me, but I'm all over social media. I have been for years. I still have a MySpace, and I'm not going to talk about it. Thanks so much. This has been my TED Talk. Shawn, sweetie, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, overlook.film. Come find me there for all your video, photo, audio needs in the New England area.
Yep. Happy
to help out. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Grindhouse Podcast.
Yep.
As she said, we're on Twitter at Grindhouse Cast. Chat with her on Discord.
Yep.
And through her and me as well. If you're listening to the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating. Give us whatever rating you want, but 5 stars helps us better in the long run. You can find the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your morning fix.
Yep.
New episodes come out every single week, Monday mornings, bright and early.
Yep.
If you're listening to the podcast and you want a more visual experience, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can get every single episode in its entirety with video.
He didn't laugh the entire time I just did the really shitty robot.
Wow. If you like what we're doing and you want to show us your support, we also have a Patreon. All that information is down in the show notes. I think we've come up with some fun little tier levels, so you can get some enjoyable rewards.
We'd also love it if you guys give us input on what you want to see, you want to hear. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this. Yeah, this is about movies, but hell, we're doing this for us, but we're also doing this so people hear our opinions about movies. So please, let us know.
I think we've got some cool ideas in the works for all this.
Yes.
And I personally think that this podcast is going to keep evolving and changing.
Oh
as
God,
we go.
yeah. We're always, the format keeps changing a little bit by week to week. But you also have to remember, like, we're recording these in succession, like always.
Yes, it's no secret. We're not trying to hide that we record these episodes in advance. So by the time you see an episode, we're probably months ahead.
Yeah.
So
like, we're mentioning now, like, tomorrow is Christmas for us, 2021.
Yeah, you guys are going to be well into 2022.
We literally just put up the getting to know us section.
The episode 0.
Episode 0 is live. So we've only gotten feedback from that one at this moment. So definitely, like, even though this is going to be far in the future, leave us feedback. Let us know how we're doing anywhere of the social medias that we mentioned. We're going to continue bringing you guys content. We've already got, I think we said we already have till September planned. Because at this point, this is coming out in April.
Yes.
So we have till September planned. So, and trust us, we enjoy doing this.
It's a lot of fun.
It takes a lot of work. Like, we have to plan these in advance. But this is a lot of fun. It really is. I thought that at one point I'd be like, I don't want a podcast. But then I'm like, podcast. I get really excited to be like, it's a podcast day.
Until next week, I'm Shawn.
I might be Leah. I'll get back to you on that.
Thanks for listening, and keep watching.
It's back, baby.
The shocking nature of many scenes in this film, it is definitely not recommended for the squeamish.